Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through this three-game slate. Apologies for the slight delay in getting started here. We had a prop that we wanted to get out before getting to the show. With that in mind, Mike, how are you on this fine Thursday?
Doing great. Yeah, I had a really good day yesterday. Just so much content, and I just felt like on a high all day. It was so good. Feeling a little bit today, but yeah, feeling good. Really good day yesterday. Probably the best sweat I've ever had of the season. When I had a middle on Utah and Golden State with the way that game ended, I needed it to break down that way. It was so good. But good day for us in the props, 10-2. Good day in the spreads with the reps covering easily. So yeah, really good day for the pockets and really good day for just content, which is my favorite thing to do. Which is it's awesome. But yeah, 3-game slate. Too many probables today, and you guys will have a pod coming out on your feeds. Just me complaining about injury reporting. I think you guys will like it. It's really fun. And shout out to you for the idea.
Yeah, we've already done one podcast in the books, another show now, another show at 5 o'clock Eastern beyond the paywall. So churning out the content like the machines that we are. With that in mind, let's get into the injury report today. As you allude to, a lot of probable tags, not as many questionable tags, but there are plenty of players resting, so we can talk through those situations. The Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back after an overtime loss in Orlando, where they were up big in the first half. This game ends up getting away from them in the second half, and Orlando ends up eking out the victory. You can see there, even though it was an overtime game, the minutes were largely kept in check for the Clippers side of things, but they're going to rest Kawhi Leonard, not surprising there, Terrence Mann, and they're without Norm Powell still as well. They will get back Marcus Morris and Luke Kennard, so they will still add in some rotation depth there as well. I know you had some concerns about Paul George potentially resting. He said he expects to play. As a result, we had just fired off an under on Reggie Jackson tonight. What are your thoughts on how the Clippers rotation is impacted by these moving parts in and out?
Yeah, let me start with Reggie Jackson because we got that bet off, and I wanted to bet it before I talked and gave away the edge here. But Ty City got, quote, worn down yesterday. And that struck me. That's not a quote he usually uses on Reggie Jackson. So I don't think Reggie Jackson's minutes are going to be very high today. They obviously have a rested John Wall who's still on a minutes limit. So it's definitely expecting Reggie Jackson to start. But I don't think he has a big minute ceiling today. To hear your coach talk about you like that when not really led that way after a pretty bad game. We've seen a lot of coaches, like Golden State's a pretty good example of you have a bad game, like, hey, I'm gonna take it easy on you this game, maybe an entire long season. So top of the projection edge, which we're like Looney yesterday, which we thank goodness we got. Just little bit of edge that way. We're projecting like it's not there, but if things are working out with the coach quotes, that can go that way. Luke Kennard back, expecting him to start. Calf injury that should be behind him. It was pretty minor. They've been ramping him up as far as I could tell. Very little detail there, but I would expect him to start. We know they really like him in that first unit for spacing next to Paul George. They seem to work well together. So expect him to start there. Marcus Morris obviously going to be back in the starting lineup. So a starting lineup of Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Paul George, Marcus Morris, and Zubats. Terrence Mann got concussed on the last play of the game last night. So really scary. Hope he's okay. They've got Wall back, so you're essentially putting Wall in the Terrence Mann backup guard role. We'll see probably a little bit more overlap than we've seen. So I think Wall, who's still on a minutes limit according to Ty Lue, could play, maybe push like 29, 30, but he's rested. He hasn't played in a little bit, so I think Wall could have especially if Reggie Jackson is a little bit managed. We see Wall's been playing pretty well, so I think he's a guy to look at. Maybe we could talk about later on the DFS show.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more on the DFS show, but certainly not only the potential for more minutes perhaps tonight, but also you look at the second unit and the guys that he's going to be playing with. He's used to playing with someone like Norm Powell in that second unit or a staggered Paul George, Kawhi Leonard in the second unit. Today, it's probably going to be, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, maybe Moses Brown, maybe Amir Coffey. It's not going to be guys who are going to command having the ball in their hands very much at all. So I think John Wall is going to have huge rates tonight. He's pretty interesting on a 3-game slate where you're, always trying to find ways. Sorry, starting our YouTube channel there in the background accidentally. Onto the Miami side of things. They are not on the second night of a back-to-back, but they've played a lot of basketball of late.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Lowry is going to be rested tonight. Their injury report is littered with other names on it, including basically everybody on the roster at this point. Jimmy Butler is listed as questionable with right knee injury management. Dwayne Dedmon listed as questionable. They've got a couple guys listed as available in Haywood Highsmith and Nikola Jovic. Then they've got a bunch of probable tags: Strus, Oladipo, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. What are your thoughts on Miami? No Kyle Lowry, and do you think we see no Jimmy Butler tonight?
No, Jimmy's playing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just management. He's going to be fine. Just back-to-back sat the last game. Pretty standard protocol for multiple games to get Q tags after a rest game. So I would be pretty shocked to see Jimmy not play today. That, despite my complaining about Miami's injury report, we've got a cadence to some of their Q tags. But this is what an injury report. I mean, this is just absurd. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, there's only 12 guys on the injury report on an NBA roster, so
yeah. Compare this to the Kings earlier this year. Like, they literally wouldn't even have an injury report because they wouldn't put anybody on it. But yeah. So Jimmy's gonna start. I would expect pretty full minutes. Spoelstra called a big game today, so of course they're sitting Kyle Lowry. But yeah, so they don't have Gabe Vincent, so they've got some depth there. So there's going to be a lot of Tyler Hero ball handling. He'll probably facilitate the offense quite a bit. I don't think Jimmy didn't really run a lot of offense in his return, and since he's been back, so I think
they're not using him that way as much this year.
Yep, exactly. So I think Hero's in a really good spot. I guess Strus would be getting the start. Would you agree that it would be him and Jimmy?
I think that's right. So Hero, Butler, Strus, Bam, and Caleb Martin.
Yeah, that's right. But they're missing a little bit of defense with that lineup. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised to see, because Kyle Lowry, who's a point guard, he guards forwards so much. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of push and pull with someone like Haywood Highsmith, especially against like Paul George, and adding in because they like Caleb on the ball. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of, and I actually wouldn't be shocked if he started.
I could see that.
Yeah, just to add another defender, because they've kind of got enough offense. But do they want to? The question is, sorry, going to Louise a little bit. It's only 3 games late. Do you trust Jimmy to pick up a big defensive assignment conflict injury? If the answer is yes, then they're going to start Strus. If the answer is no, then they may lean more into Haywood Highsmith. Okay, I think
they're more likely to start Strus. Just Strus and Jimmy have a good connection offensively as well. And then in the second unit, essentially Victor Oladipo will be playing point guard, right? He'll just basically be running the show, have the ball in his hands. We'll see how much he can play. Played 19 minutes in his debut. It was rusty, kind of as expected. 3 for 9 there. Did get 9 shots up in 19 minutes, so he's not going to be bashful. In the second unit, guys that he's going to be playing with are, guys that don't create their own offense, like Duncan Robinson, perhaps Haywood Highsmith. Another reason that I think you start Strus is otherwise you end up with this weird Duncan Robinson Strus in the second unit, where you've got Oladipo, who's not really good at feeding these guys off of coming around picks and different things like that. So you're going to have low usage guys in that second unit for Oladipo. We had an under that we squeezed by last game on inefficiency. He played a little bit more than we expected. But I think he'll have another big usage rate in that second unit, similar to John Wall that we were just talking about, like surrounded by guys that just don't soak up possessions.
He is on a minutes limit for, quote, X amount of time, according to Eric Spoelstra. Right. So I would expect pretty similar minutes limit there. Probably he might get to 20 here, maybe 21, 22, but I would expect a very long ramp up. Talked about this last time where he's been hurt because he ramped up too quick on the non-surgically repaired knee. It just kind of messed him up, and they're being very cautious. So I would expect, pretty hard cap on him for maybe weeks.
All right, let's go to the Rockets side, where we do have a questionable tag in Kevin Porter Jr. Also, Bruno Fernando and Josh Christopher are also questionable here. So there is the potential for some guard depth stacked up with injuries here. They're still without Jayshawn Tate, obviously. Any read on the Houston guys and their availability tonight?
Yeah, not a lot. I listened to Steven Silas's coaching presser at practice, and he talked about KPJ a little bit and didn't note the injury. He mentioned that Ty Washington will play, quote, if necessary. So if you wanted to read between the lines, that maybe was a little bit of a tell with the KPJ stuff. So, yeah, I don't have a read there. But yeah, we should know. I think that it sounds pretty minor. I didn't see what happened to him last game, so I would expect him to start. Maybe coming off too many minutes in the last game, that overtime game. He's had the injuries before. I think that's what it is. So I think he's going to play, but we'll see if he doesn't. I mean, probably Jalen Green at the point guard. Please start Tari Eason here, man. Like, just do it. I mean, move Eric Gordon to the 2. Start Tari Eason. He's earned it. They're probably going to start KJ Martin. They seem pretty comfortable there. So I would expect the starting lineup, if you can't go, to be Jalen Green, Eric Gordon at the 2, KJ Martin, Jabari, and then Şengün, who's also has improved foul technique after fouling out last game. You're echoing a little bit, by the way.
We've seen. Oh, am I? That's not great. We've seen with Kevin Porter Jr. out in the past that Eric Gordon and Jalen Green have both benefited quite a bit. So not just the playing time of someone getting bumped in the starting lineup like Kenyon Martin Jr., but those guards really benefit with a lot of the ball handling because Kevin Porter Jr. has a lot of that on his own side of things. On to San Antonio. Let's talk through them a little bit. They've got a full injury report as well. There's no Jakob Poeltl still. Devin Vassell is listed as doubtful. Still no Jeremy Sohan, no Keita Bates-Diop. Doug McDermott and Romeo Langford and Josh Richardson all probable here. So what do you expect in the absence of Vassell and Poeltl and Bates-Diop, a guy they've used as a spot starter and fill-in? What do you expect the starting lineup to look like tonight for San Antonio, and how do you expect the rotation to shake?
Yeah, that's a rough injury report. They're losing a lot of depth there. They've used KBD and Sohan and Vassell in like very similar roles. So they're getting down there. They'll probably have to start Richardson just because they're like out of it. They're actually I think Langford's probably almost a lock to start just because they need on-ball defense. They've used Sohan in that role. They use KBD in that role. Vassell doesn't really pick up that role. That's a role that Romeo Langford picks up. So I would probably expect him to start. And then, I mean, I guess Roby, right? Just because they're kind of running out of bodies there. So they're really thin. I was tempted to bet this just because they're so thin. They don't have a lot of shot creation. Big spot for Trey Jones for more ball handling. We'll see how much Keldon can play here. But yeah, they're thin here against a bad Rockets team. This team's terrible on defense. Pretty fun game to attack that we'll be talking more about in DFS show for sure.
Yeah, and they obviously have a lot more depth of true 4s and 5s. So like the Poeltl injury is actually something that they can kind of overcome. But they don't have a lot of guard and wing depth. And so I would expect certainly Langford to start, as you alluded to. And then that fifth, so it would be Trey Jones, Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, Romeo Langford in that 5th spot. I could see it being a number of ways. I kind of think it could be McDermott. But it could be Roby too. I mean, size wise,
yeah, they need shooting. They definitely need shooting in that unit too, though.
So it's tough though. They're missing a lot of things that they need. Just generally.
Do you think that they don't really like? I guess they had to put Trey Jones on ball defense just because they're running out of stuff. They don't really like to do that, but I think they would probably start McDermott. Actually, I think they just need a little more shooting there. They really like to live off spot ups and. Vassell feels like I think he's 3rd in the NBA in spot up shooting, so I think that makes sense to make their offense function. But you're asking a lot out of Trey Jones defensively.
They also run a lot of action that is for Vassell that is very similar to stuff that they run for McDermott. Obviously, Vassell is more comfortable coming off of screens and going into screen roll stuff and making plays there. But McDermott has experience doing that stuff, and he's used to running off screens and trying to distract the defense that way. And so I think that's most likely where they're going, but we'll see. Obviously, and then we saw them play 3 centers against Phoenix in a game that they got blown out there. Collins, Gorgie Jiang, and Charles Bassey all saw the floor. Alize Johnson and Roby also saw the floor. I mean, they have a lot of depth in the front court. What they don't have a lot of depth is on the wings and in the ball handling spot. And I also think one of the reasons, because they don't have the depth in the ball handling spot, I think that's one of the reasons Josh Richardson is less likely to start, because I think he's got to act as basically the backup point guard. in these iterations. But yeah, they're a little bit short tonight in a game against Houston that I think will be very heavily targeted from a DFS perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last two teams on the slate, not much, just probable tags for Denver, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They're still without Michael Porter Jr. And then for Portland, Josh Hart, Keon Johnson, and Drew Eubanks all got probable tags. Still without Gary Payton, who's still out with a return to competition reconditioning tag that he's been out for weeks. And they're obviously without Nasir Little. They're going to be out without him for a while. Any notes that you wanted to leave on the Denver-Portland side of things for injury perspective?
Yeah, Gary Payton. Billups got a few questions about that at practice the other day, saying like he is, quote, for sure going to have a minutes cap on him. This is crazy, man. Like he's supposed to be back in October. But I was listening to a Warriors pod and they were talking about how basically Gary Payton had told Warriors people he's expecting a December return. So it sounds like he's getting a little bit closer, and man, they could really use him. And the Warriors could really use him too. But yeah, I expect him to come back. I want to say I love that. I love Gary Payton. He's such a fun player. I love his aggressive defensive nature. But yeah, I don't really have much to note on injuries. We know Josh Hart's going to play a bunch. He's over his little ankle thing that cost him some time. He should be good to go. We're seeing a little bit more of Watford to fill in for the Nazir stuff. Winslow playing a little bit more wingy as opposed to more 4. But yeah, they've got a little bit of depth there. But I want to see Gary Payton back, man. I miss watching that guy play. And big hit. We won some big overs on him in the finals, betting on him. He was one of our favorites.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think in the context of this Warriors offseason, and especially the championship team last year and the depth that they benefited from during the course of the regular season and in the playoffs in terms of being able to make matchup changes and different things. And I know there were a number of people who felt like, it's just money for the Warriors guys. Why don't they just bring these guys back, even then when it's like 5 times the amount based on luxury taxes and whatnot? And here we are. Otto Porter Jr. is hurt. Gary Payton hasn't played at all this year. Juan Toscano Anderson's been hurt and out of the Lakers rotation. That shouldn't be that difficult to crack. Iguodala obviously is still on the team, but has been unable to play with his health. They really had kind of a perfect scenario of these guys, and it also is it's also a testament to it's a much longer season to get through when you get all the way to the NBA Finals, and some of those offseason injuries like Gary Payton's linger into the regular season this year. So very excited to see Gary Payton back on the floor. It won't be tonight though.
Nope.
Okay. All right. That will do
nothing on Denver. Yeah, nothing. Not Denver. We saw KCP played pretty normal minutes. He looked fine. So yeah, that probably tag more sleep ignore.
That will do it for this edition of South Shruns NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts running for money, in addition to many formats of NFL contests still running for huge cash prizes. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tools at ETR to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. Justin Fan from Underdog Fantasy will be returning to the program tomorrow to cover another big Friday slate. So we'll have the A team on it tomorrow. If you are interested in following more of our content from the DFS side of things, myself and Mike Gallagher will be behind the paywall. It's been the Mike Gallagher week for the premium content, as Mike's been filling in for everybody left and right in his normal scheduled slot, his normal work day. We'll be tackling this 3-game slate at 5:00 Eastern behind the paywall. If you'd like to check out any of the packages that we're offering there for subscriptions, go to Establish to Run. Check out the subscribe page for NBA. If you're interested in the prop subscription, we have been on quite a heater of late, 2024 over the last 4 slates. We're up to almost 80 units on the season, 17% ROI on the bets that we've made. As always, if you are interested in subscribing to those packages, please read the FAQ, the frequently asked questions that we put on the site. It's really important because while we are putting up a really, really good record, it is really hard to get a lot of these bets, and you have to be very prepared to do it. And you also have to work. The people in our Discord, the other subscribers, will help you figure out how to get money down on these things if you can't get the bet when it's originally released. But it's really important to read through all this and understand kind of what you're getting into, because it is a challenge to get the money down. It's picking the bet, getting the winners. We can do that for you. Getting the money down is the challenge, and people in the Discord will help with ideas and creative ways to do that as well. And as always, if you're enjoying the content that we're putting out, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. You'll get notifications whenever we go live, and please consider smashing that like button and feeding that algorithm on a nice hungry Thursday. Feed the algorithm. Nom 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.